right. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to Camp Capstone. My name is Chris Whipan, and we are today interviewing Oda. Well, it's Andreas Odendahl, actually, right? But we go by Oda, correct?
Right. Yeah, everybody calls me Otis, so it's my nickname for ages now. So that's what everybody's calling me, so that's okay. Oda.
All right, Oda works. It looks like the English word ode, like as in ode to joy, but Oda
Yeah.
would be correct. Excellent.
No, it's the same word in German actually.
Oh,
It's
is it?
it's like an ode to whatever you want to ode to. In my youth it was always an ode to sins.
Yeah, I remember youth. That was a little while ago. So you basically the first time I recall ever seeing your name, and I believe this was the first game that you actually published. Was that La Granja? Um,
Yes.
yeah. So that was with Michael Keller, and now you guys were a little crazy with that one because you kind of, from what I understand, and it certainly feels like this, you took a lot of elements from your favorite designers and decided to make a game of it. Is that what happened?
Well, that's actually half part of it
Okay.
because what I like to do is um, I like to get inspired by the great ideas from other designers, and then I try to take elements from those games and the ones I liked, of course, and then shape them into something new, something that is a little bit different. And well, it doesn't mean it's original or it's unique or something like this, but it's hopefully good, and it's a different version of what's in the old game in the other games. So I try to
Mm-hmm.
turn it into some of my own style, you can say, and that was the idea behind La Granja when I was inspired by Glory to Rome. Which has a great card mechanism, a way of using cards in a multi-use way, and I like that very much. And I hope that I found some kind of variant that stands by itself.
Yeah, I think with multi-use cards, there is, if it's done well, I think it is very stressful because you don't know exactly what you want to use the card for because it's good for too many things.
Yeah, what I like in games is to make interesting decisions. That's what drives me in designing games. And the it's brilliant about multi-use cards is that you have so many decisions to make because every card has four different things that they can turn into, and you have not only to decide what it should become, but you also have to decide what they should not become. So what you're deciding against. And I think, to me personally, it's a very interesting decision. But I understand that's very stressful for certain people because when you have five cards in your hand, you have 20 options. That's very much.
Exactly.
I understand.
And it's hard to use it for one thing because generally you're giving up a good thing to get another good thing and you're like, but I want to do both.
And that's usually when I realize that the game is working and the game is good when players start to curse while playtesting. And because they have so many good options and they have to decide what option to take, and that's normally, "Oh, I don't like, I have to use this one." So when people get angry, I'm always enjoyed by this.
The other thing I enjoy about I do enjoy it. It causes stress, but it's that good stress. The other thing I enjoy is that moving goods around and making goods and getting them to be the better goods, like that's a very intricate little puzzle. It's not just you have this stuff, here you go. You have to make the right moves to upgrade your goods and do all that. What inspired that chunk of it?
Well, actually, I'm a little bit of a cube pusher myself, so I like to handle wooden game components. You
Mm,
could say that's what I started liking in games, and so this comes kind of natural to me. And you can see this also in my other designs. Uh, well, Cooper Island is a cube pusher, like yeah, it's perfectly a perfect cube pusher because you have all those little cubes to push around, and then this is resource value 4 and value 3 and so on, and
right.
that's what I really like. The the What's behind the La Granja good this good system was actually to have a very reduced kind of upgrading goods.
Mm-hmm.
Was a little bit inspired by my friend Uwe Rosenberg. He has some famous games where you have small good chips,
Right.
and when you upgrade them, you flip them over. And this was actually the first I had in La Granja as well. So when you had olives, you had a little marker, a cardboard marker, and when you upgraded, you just flipped it.
Okay.
And with La Granja, it was the thing that most people said, "Oh, this is too close to a Rosenberg game." And then I had this idea of using this markers to indicate it indicates what the good is, and you can shift them around like this cube pushing that I like so much. And this was the basic idea to change this because many people said, "Oh, this is too close to a Uwe game." Yeah.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a compliment.
Yes, yes, true. I like his games very much, especially Ora et Labora is one of
Right.
my favorite games, and that's one of those games where you have to turn around many chips.
Indeed. I have to. I haven't played that in quite a while because it was out of print for so long, and my one friend is the only one who has it, so I don't get to play it as much as I'd like. But
Hmm.
the timing on that one's interesting, for sure.
Yes.
So from La Granja, you went on to do Solaris mission. So what was kind of the thought to? Did it start out with that kind of a theme, or did you just kind of make some stuff and then the theme came later?
Okay, you want the whole background story of both games because
Sure.
they are both connected. Um, it was when I met Mike in Essen.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 2009 when we met on the fair, and we both worked on the same booth for Hall Games.
Mm-hmm.
We were explaining At the Gates of Loyang from Uwe Rosenberg, which got published this year. And we got acquainted and started talking about our own ideas about designing games. And Mike approached me with one of his designs and said that he was some kind of stuck in the development, and he asked me if I would take a look at it. And
Mm-hmm.
this game was called Dice for the Galaxy, and it was
Okay.
space themed uh, roll your dice kind of game.
Right.
So I had a brief look at it, and I started redesigning the whole game. And halfway through it, I changed the theme to an agricultural theme. So when I finally talked to him again, I said, "Okay, I managed to work on your game, but it's a different game now. We have two games now because this was Lagrania on the other side and Dice for the Galaxy on the other side." And we said, "Okay, so let's be both designers of both games." And
Okay.
then it was just the case of so Lagrania was more like my game, and Michael was the co-designer, and Solaris Mission, Dice for the Galaxy became Solaris Mission later, and this was more my games, and I was the co-designer because later, after La Granja was published, because it became more serious faster, and got picked up by Spielworks. After La Granja was published, we decided to go deeper into Solaris Mission again, and again Spielworks wanted to publish it. So both of our games that we got back then were published. It was very cool. Yeah, that's the story
So
about both games.
so in the U.S., Spielworks is getting better because they're getting more relationships with U.S. publishers, but it's still very hard, and we look at them as being like very good heavy games makers. Like they make typically if they make a game, it's going to be one that kind of fits in my brain space. Were you
Hmm.
guys excited when they were the ones who ended up picking up La Granja and then Solaris after that? Is that like to me that seems like a pretty big deal because I view them as a premier publisher of good games like that.
Well, it was actually more like they picked us
Oh.
because I like to publish um, pictures of my prototypes on
Mm-hmm.
social media. And I knew Uli because he lives close to me.
Right.
And when you get to know some people in the business, you sometimes meet other people. And so over around the edge, there was contact to Uli, and he once wrote an private message to me on Facebook and saying, uh, "This game of yours, you're playtesting, that looks very interesting. Do you want to show it to me?" And I said, "Yeah, of course, certainly." And but back then, I was only doing this for myself, so I never had the expectation to get published. And the only reason I went there was there is this guy. He's working for 20 more than 20 years in the business, and you better listen to a guy like this because he can spread some wisdom. And that's why I went there. He could help me with making my game better, and I showed it to him. He invited me into his home, and it was very nice. And halfway through the play, he said, "Okay, I want you to leave the game with me. I will take it to my playtesting rounds, and if they agree, if the feedback is good, I will publish the game." And I thought, "What? You want to have it?" I wasn't prepared for that, and I don't know if I had a rule by then. I had to write one very quickly, but just a couple of weeks later, he said, "Okay, here's the contract. I want to
Wow.
publish the game." Yeah. Um, and on the other hand, I was a Spielworks fan myself for time back then because I really loved the game from Thomas Spitzer, Rushefahrt, which
Mm-hmm.
got published by Capstone Games later under the name the Ruhr. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if
Yep.
you or Ohio River, and so I was pretty excited about getting picked up by Spielworks and also having the opportunity to work with Harald Lieske, who is a brilliant illustrator, and I always loved his art.
Mm-hmm.
And especially at Spielworks, Harald can actually be very creative in a way he could not be with a bigger publisher. So
Right.
he in my personal opinion, he made very, very good art for the game. So it was very exciting for me.
Yeah, it's definitely one that takes you not too long to understand, and the iconography is very clear, and it's very pretty to look at. So all those things are kind
Yes.
of what makes art work for a game, right?
Yeah.
Outstanding. So fast forward a little bit, and then last year you were able to release Cooper Island with Frosted Games, I believe, over there is who did it
Yes.
there. And
Right.
again, Frosted Games is seems to everything they put out that comes over our way at least I love like because they tend to pick the slightly heavier, more in depth things and have good production. Um, what was the design process for Cooper Island?
Well, La Granja and Solaris Mission were already both picked up at a very early stage.
Mm-hmm.
and Uli takes some time to develop the games and give some feedback to the designers. And you should look a little bit here and a little bit here and make it a little bit shorter and stuff like this. And he contracts the games very early. And it
Okay.
was the same with Frosted Games. The contract we did was signed 2016
Mm-hmm.
already, and we took much time to develop the game. Yeah, for 2 years, and then Frosted Games hired a well-known editor from it's Victor Kobilke from he was before that he was at Eggertspiele, and Victor half a year before the game got published, Victor took the last steps to really polish the game and do the final, well, 10 to 5%
Right.
until it could already be published. So he changed a little, small things, and he made everything well rounded. And what my personal favorite is about the game, that he was able to think of a way to produce this layout for the board game, for the game board,
Right.
because it's all a huge puzzle, and it was very difficult to find a good layout, and could also be produced and also work with all player counts.
Right.
And he did a very brilliant job on this, in my personal opinion, because the table presence of the game is stunning.
It really is, and if you've never seen it, it has like the central board that you all work on, but then it has small islands out the side. So it
Yeah,
scales based on the amount of people, how many kind of islands you add to the game. So you
yeah. Every
know,
player has his own peninsula, and if you're playing
right?
it with 4 players, you need 4 peninsulas on this island. And when you're playing it with also only 2 players, you have 2 peninsulas. And the puzzle that was layouted by Victor makes it possible so that the game board always fits, and that's brilliant.
Yeah, it really makes it a lot of fun. It was a great game to demo last year because it has a lot of table presence with the way it builds up and the layers and the way all the cubes and everything. It
Yeah.
also, I love this being able to build something because I like tile laying. I don't
Mm.
want that to be my whole game, mind you, but I like that it's the production component is very well managed. I think it's well done. What kind of where did that design idea come from? Because it's one of my favorite parts.
Oh, it's actually another thing that I got influenced by another game.
Hmm.
Um, there's an old game. It is called Antics, published by the Fragor brothers. It's a
Oh,
Britain-based publisher, I guess, very small
yeah.
publisher,
Okay.
and they also do very small print runs, only 1,000 games per print run, and that's it. They don't do more games. And Antics was a game I played. I don't know exactly how long it is ago. I think it was published around about 2011 or 12, something like this. And this game had a very unique and very cool and also thematic um, action selection mechanism, where you build an anthill
Okay.
from double hex tiles, and you get different layers. And the clue on Antics was that if you want to perform an action, you had to put a worker on your anthill. And depending on the level of the action, you could perform the action multiple times. So if it was on the third layer or on the third level, you could perform the action 3 times. So you was trying to build this anthill to get better and better actions. And my idea was to take this, being the cube pusher I am, I wanted to use it for resource building,
Sure.
or to gain resources. And that's how the idea got started. So when you have a wood on level 3, it's the resources value, what did I say? Value 3, the level is
Right.
3, so the value of the cube is 3.
I really like it, and I think the building rules and the way things have to go up and what they can be next to. There's a lot of there's a lot of you can feel really smart if you build well. Like I think that you can make some really big moves and you can build rapidly if you wait a few turns and kind of set it up, which I like all the things it does in my brain. So thank you for that.
Yeah, this is always something that is also very important to me, because you can see that you built something, and it's independent from how you score in the game, because there's only one player who can win a game, and all the other players would be disappointed after the
Right.
game is done. But if you have something that you can see, you built this island, you explored it, you had your own buildings to put on the levels, and that's very rewarding if you see it, even if you maybe come in second or third. You don't care, because you had a lot of fun.
Right. You get tired of losing all the time, but at least if you feel smart once or twice along the way, then it's fun. So
Yeah, it's hard to master.
so I think I know the story, but I'd like to hear it from you, and so you can tell everybody, where did the name for Cooper Island come from?
Yeah, it is actually an idea from my wife. She's always the first one to playtest my games, and she's always full of ideas.
Hmm.
And many of the ideas that went into Cooper Island were actually by my wife, and I was just picking them up and designing them into the game. Um, she was the one who, well, before it was Cooper Island, we had the idea of making the game about Roanoke Island.
Okay.
You, I don't know if you're familiar with this. It's the first settlement
That
from the
mysteriously disappeared.
yes, that mysteriously disappeared. Right. The problem was that was not so good for a game that tells a story, because when the settlement disappears, you don't have a game anymore. You have to start up. You have to start from the top. And so later we decided that we could not really do the theme, because it would be too generic and not fitting to
Okay.
the story of the Roanoke Island. So when this theme was gone, she said, "Okay, so let's name the island after a dog." And one day, Matthias from Frosted Games, he's the owner and editor of the publisher, he was here at our home to playtest the game. And my wife was also around, and she talked him into it, like only she could. And we were very happy and very lucky that Matthias thought that this was a cool idea, and also that you could tell a personal story with using this theme. And actually, the text in the rulebook that introduces the theme was
Hmm.
written by Victor Kobilka, and he did such a great job of writing this little heartwarming story. And they also, and a very big thank you to the publisher, that they printed also the story of Cooper that I wrote into the credits.
Nice.
Uh, be- so it was very cool, very personal game, and I think this is only possible because it's such a small publisher. Well, they are getting bigger, but it's very small, very personal. It's almost a friendship between designer and publisher, and um, I think there are not many publishers who would have gone with this story, and so the game became very personal to me and my wife as well, and this is a very cool thing.
That's amazing. I loved it when I first heard it and read it, and I'm like, that's we get so many bland Euros that have like they have a lot of playability and they're very fun, but they don't have that kind of personal soul that I think you kind of get with Cooper, and he's half the cover. He's big. Like
Yeah,
there's a boat, but he's there. He's big, so it's amazing. I really love it.
Yeah,
So
but we're the only ones who have the real starting player. So when we're playing the game and we change the starting player, Cooper has to come sit next to me. So no, it's just a joke.
at least you could keep track of it that way.
Yeah.
Um, but there you go. If you want a unique first player marker, I'm sure like if we had Essen this year, maybe little stuffed Cooper dolls. I think would be. I can see
Oh,
it.
you would make my wife so happy.
I could totally see it. I could totally see it. So, so you kind of came out of the gate swinging with Le Grand, huh? Totally loved it straight out of the gate. Did not feel like somebody's first design or first published design, I should say. What's on the future? Because if this is what you've done so far, I can only imagine that it's going to continue to grow and get better.
Mm. Actually, because I'm doing this as a side job, I
Mm-hmm.
have a normal day job, being an assistant for a wheelchair driver. So this is a 40 hours a week day job.
Right.
And when you're having such a work intense side job like designing a game, and it took us 4 years to design and develop the game,
True.
it was very, very exhausting. And after the game was published, and I know this from other designers and publishers as well, uh, if you put so much work into one game, you fell into a hole after it was
Mm-hmm.
published. And for a few months, I wasn't able to come up with any idea, or I actually didn't want to. And when this was gone, and I felt the motivation to start designing games again, Corona came around. Suddenly, I was having very much time on my own, not being able to go to gaming events, gaming nights, or something like this. So I had actually much time to be creative and put more games into motion, and I'm working on several games
Excellent.
right now. Yeah, but
Awesome.
none of them are really in a stage where you can show stuff around. It's just the first playtest started on, I think, 3 or 4 of my games, and yeah, normally it takes a couple of years.
Sure.
If I'm lucky to get published again, this is something you can never know. I have the opportunity because I'm known now, and but yeah, let's just see. Maybe the game's we- it's possible.
Well, I mean, I would rather have one game every 3 or 4 years that's solid, good, right out of the gate, like these two have been, than just churn out one a year and hope every third one is good, right? Like I'd rather.
Yeah,
That's hard.
I like to enjoy games more than 2 or 3 times. So um, that's what I always try to design into my games, that you have a huge replayability, so you can play it 15 to 20 times without being bored. And that's something I like in games, so I can play them so often and always find different approaches into the strategies, or something new you can find still after so many plays.
Hmm.
This is something I really like. So designing games like this takes time.
So, what kind of games get you excited to play? For me, I like big, heavy, meaty things, 18xx. Like I like all that stuff. Like, what's some of your favorite things that you like to play?
Yeah. Well, the game that got me really into gaming back then, it was Puerto Rico,
Okay.
and it's one of my all-time classics. And this was the game that turned me into a geek. But the game I love the most right now is actually a brilliant design. It's called Underwater Cities, and that game, well, has so much replayability and so much depth, and we played it over 120 times by now.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really,
Vladimir
really.
I
Games.
love the way Vladimir Suchi's brain works because I like that. Like Last Will's great. Shipyard is still, delightful.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's actually Underwater Cities is a very good example for the type of games I like because the game has a strategic approach.
hmm
There's something that you can plan with because you have the action spaces, and but you have also have some randomness in the cards, and there's also a strategic approach and randomness that is more like a salt and pepper in the game. And that's the kind of games I like the most, where you have a mixture and of these elements.
right. And it's not just I'm waiting for this one card to come out. It's coming out later. You may
Yeah,
never see it because the deck may never get that deep. So,
yeah, and also you always have something you can rely on because the actions on the board they never change. This is
right.
something you can plan with. It depends on the cards you draw, what way you want to go, and
hmm
that's a very very tactical approach, and also the game is very strategic as well, and that's a perfect blend,
Yeah.
at least to me. At least to me.
I like the games where you don't get to say, I think I'm going to do this time before you even sit down at the table. I like it when you can kind of sit at the table, get your cards, and then say, all right, I can do these three things. I'm probably going to do this. And then this is plan B. And before you know it, that's completely out the window because it didn't go your way and you're on to plan F by now.
Yes, true.
Absolutely love it. So if there's a young designer out there or somebody who has an idea in their head, how would you encourage them to get it out and get it published? Or what do you think should be some first steps that they should take?
Yeah, I can only tell what my friends and mentors that I had when I was starting designing games gave me, and that's you have to do it. You have to get there from getting the idea from your head, and you have
hmm
to at the table, and you have to make the game. This is a very hard thing to do, at least for me, because you have to motivate yourself to finally get into motion. And this is something I struggled along with, but it's actually, well, I was talking to Uwe Rosenberg back then, and he said, you can think about all the games in your head, but if you never sit down and make them, you won't get anywhere.
Right.
And that's very true, I think. And also, the way I think about game design is that I'm always comparing it to some kind of hip hop. Um, hip hop artists they take older songs and they use the records and scratch them and make new songs out of them. They become unique
hmm
and they're not copying something. They are getting inspired by older songs and they turn it into something new, into something of their own style. So don't be afraid to get inspired by other games. Uh, take something that you like and turn it into your own design. And I am proud of something like this because after La Granja was published, I was approached by a young designer and he was asking if he could use the card mechanism from La Granja. And I said, yeah, of course, fire away because it's not mine. You can do whatever you want with it. Just make sure that you use it in your own way. And the game uh, was published already. So Captains of the Gulf is also published
Oh,
by
yeah.
Spielworks, and it has also the way of you tucking your cards under your player board, and it's a brilliant design by Jason Dinger. And so this is the nature of game mechanisms, I think, and that's something I like in games. It's like yeah, mechanisms evolve over time,
Right.
and I think that's cool.
Excellent. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your evening to talk with us and kind of share your story. This has been great getting to know you. I mean, I have literally all your games sit upstairs on my shelf, which is, I can't say that for many people, but all yours are there. So thank you for giving me many of hours of entertainment.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and it was a pleasure to meet you as well.
Awesome. So thanks a lot for being here, and we look forward to whatever comes next when it comes. No need to rush it.
Hopefully.
Good things take time. As somebody who's recently getting into barbecue, I know this. It takes time to make good things. So that's completely fair.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. So have a great evening. Thank you guys for watching. We hope you enjoyed getting to know the designer of Cooper Island by Capstone Games a little bit better. And the new solo expansion's also out. Thank you for working on that and getting it out. And we hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have fun playing Cooper Island.
I will. Thank you all very much. Have a good night.